2026 will not be the year you try again. It will be the year people look at you and ask, what happened to you? Because the version of you they remember no longer exists. Ladies and gentlemen, let me start with the truth. Most people don't want to hear. You are not stuck. You are settled. And the reason most people never become unrecognizable is not because change is hard, it's because comfort is addictive. But today, we're not talking about a year. We're not talking about someday. We're talking about 7 days. Because when a person changes their identity, 7 days is more than enough. Day one begins with a decision. Transformation does not start with motivation. It starts with decision. The moment you decide, I am no longer available for the old version of me, something shifts internally. See, people think change is gradual, but identity change is instant. You don't become disciplined by trying harder. You become disciplined when you say, I am the kind of person who does what needs to be done, especially when I don't feel like it. Your life moves in the direction of your decisions, not your intentions. Your environment is voting on your future. Let me say this plainly. If your environment stays the same, your future will too. In the next 7 days, you must remove anything that negotiates with your goals, your phone, your circle, your entertainment, because willpower gets tired, but systems don't. If success is not convenient, you won't repeat it. So make discipline easier than distraction. What you consume is what you become. Every result in your life is evidence of what you've been feeding your mind. Garbage in, garbage out, faith in, fear out, truth in, clarity out. For 7 days, starve the noise, no gossip, no complaining, no low-frequency conversations. Instead, flood your mind with truth, vision, and instruction. You don't rise to your goals, you fall to your standards. Non-negotiables create the breakthrough. Unrecognizable people live by non-negotiables. They don't ask, how do I feel today? They ask, who am I committed to becoming? Wake up earlier, move your body daily, read something that stretches you, speak life, even when silence feels easier. 7 days of enforced standards can undo 7 years of excuses. Pain will push you or purpose will pull you. Every human changes for one of two reasons. Pain becomes unbearable or purpose becomes irresistible. Don't wait for life to humble you. Choose to elevate yourself, because the pain of discipline is temporary, but the pain of regret is permanent. The unrecognizable version of you is already waiting. In 7 days, people won't recognize you because your posture will be different. Your language will be different. Your energy will be different. Not because you became someone new, but because you finally stopped betraying who you already were. You don't need more time. You need more truth, more standards, more decision. 7 days, one choice, a lifetime of difference. Identity shift comes before habit shift, because everything you repeatedly do is simply evidence of who you believe you are. Habits are not the root, they are the fruit. Most people try to change their lives by attacking behaviors while protecting their identity, and that is why change never lasts. You can force yourself to wake up early for a few days, eat clean for a week, or work hard for a month, but if deep down you still see yourself as undisciplined, unlucky, average, or inconsistent, your subconscious will always pull you back to what feels familiar. Identity is the internal thermostat of your life. No matter how high you temporarily raise the temperature with motivation, it will eventually return to the setting you believe you deserve. When you decide who you are, your behavior has no choice but to follow. The moment a person says, I am the kind of individual who keeps promises to myself, discipline stops being a struggle and starts becoming a standard. You don't negotiate with your identity, you protect it. A healthy person doesn't debate whether to exercise, just like an honest person doesn't debate whether to tell the truth. The action flows naturally from the self-image. This is why real transformation can happen fast. When identity changes, habits chase it at full speed. People think 7 days isn't enough time to change, but they're wrong, because identity doesn't operate on a calendar. It operates on decision. The instant you decide with emotional certainty that the old version of you is no longer acceptable, something breaks internally. You stop asking, do I feel like it? And start asking, what does someone like me do in this situation? That question alone rewires behavior. Your brain is constantly trying to stay consistent with who you believe you are. So when you upgrade that belief, your mind begins to look for evidence to support it. You start making better choices, not because you are forcing them, but because making old choices would now feel out of alignment. This is why identity shift must come first. Without it, habits feel heavy, temporary, and exhausting. With it, habits feel obvious, light, and inevitable. The fastest way to become unrecognizable is not to chase a long list of habits, but to make one powerful internal declaration about who you are becoming, and then live as if that decision is already true. When identity leads, habits follow. When habits lead, identity resists. Change the identity, and the life has no option but to change with it. Decisions compress time because they eliminate the need for debate, delay, and emotional negotiation. Most people think progress is slow because they measure growth in effort, but real progress is measured in clarity. A single, irreversible decision can collapse years of confusion into a moment of certainty. When you truly decide, time no longer stretches, it contracts. You stop revisiting options, you stop entertaining alternatives, and you stop leaking energy into maybe. Indecision is expensive. It drains focus, multiplies doubt, and stretches simple actions into long, painful processes. Decision, on the other hand, creates speed. The moment you decide, you move with force because your mind now has one direction instead of many. This is why people can stay stuck for years and then change their entire life in a short window. Nothing magical happened except this: they stopped negotiating with themselves. A real decision is not an announcement, it's a point of no return. It's when quitting is no longer an option you mentally revisit. Most people confuse wanting with deciding. Wanting keeps doors open, deciding closes them. And closed doors create momentum because there is nowhere else to go but forward. When a person decides, their behavior aligns faster because resistance disappears. You don't need motivation to do what you've already decided must be done. Motivation is for people who haven't made up their mind. Decision removes the emotional cost of action. That is how time compresses. What used to take months of hesitation now happens in days because the internal friction is gone. Think about how quickly your life would move if every morning you already knew what you were committed to, what you were building, and what you refused to tolerate. Most people waste years asking themselves the same questions every day. Decided people don't ask those questions, they execute. This is why decisive individuals seem lucky or fast. They are not faster, they are clearer. Clarity creates speed. Speed creates results. Results create confidence. Confidence then reinforces the original decision, creating a powerful loop that accelerates growth. When you decide who you are becoming, what you stand for, and what you will no longer accept, you reclaim time you didn't know you were losing. You stop restarting. You stop backtracking. You stop explaining. Every great transformation begins with a decision so strong that it collapses excuses and silences fear. When you decide, you borrow time from the future and bring it into the present. That is why one decision can do more in a day than discipline can do in a year. Environment is stronger than willpower because willpower is a limited resource. But environment is a constant influence. Most people fail not because they lack discipline, but because they keep placing disciplined intentions inside undisciplined surroundings. You cannot outwork what you are constantly exposed to. Every space you live in, every screen you stare at, and every person you spend time with is quietly shaping your behavior, whether you are aware of it or not. Willpower requires energy, focus, and emotional strength. And all three get depleted as the day goes on. Environment, however, never gets tired. It keeps applying pressure in the same direction, hour after hour, day after day. This is why relying on willpower is a losing strategy. It assumes you will always be at your best, when in reality, growth must be built for your weakest moments. People don't fail at night because they forgot their goals. They fail because their environment makes bad decisions easy and good decisions inconvenient. The fastest way to change behavior is not to become stronger, but to remove the need to be strong. When distractions are within reach, you will eventually reach for them. When unhealthy options are the default, you will eventually choose them. Your environment is always voting for the person you are becoming, and most people are living in spaces that are voting against their future. This includes physical environments, digital environments, and social environments. Your phone, your notifications, your room, your workplace, and your relationships are either reinforcing focus or eroding it. If your environment is built for comfort, your results will reflect comfort. If it is built for growth, progress becomes automatic. High performers don't rely on self-control, they rely on structure. They design their surroundings so that success is the path of least resistance. When the right choice is easier than the wrong one, consistency stops being a struggle. That is why changing your environment can create immediate results without changing your personality. Remove the temptation and the battle disappears. Add the tool and progress accelerates. People underestimate how quickly their life can shift when they stop fighting their environment and start shaping it. Willpower is about resisting. Environment is about aligning. Resistance drains you. Alignment carries you. When your surroundings support your goals, your energy is preserved for execution instead of defense. That is how transformation becomes sustainable. If you want to become unrecognizable, don't ask yourself for more discipline. Ask your environment to demand less of it. When the environment changes, behavior follows naturally, and willpower becomes a backup instead of a requirement. Input determines output because nothing in your life appears without first passing through your mind. Every action you take, every emotion you feel, and every result you experience is downstream from what you consistently allow into your awareness. People often focus on fixing outcomes while ignoring inputs, but that approach is backward. You cannot think differently while consuming the same information, listening to the same conversations, and entertaining the same narratives. The mind is a processing system. Whatever you feed it on a regular basis becomes the raw material it uses to create decisions, beliefs, and behavior. If the input is low quality, the output will reflect it no matter how much potential exists. This is why two people can have the same opportunity and produce completely different results. One feeds their mind fear, distraction, and limitation, while the other feeds their mind clarity, discipline, and possibility. Over time, those invisible inputs compound into visible differences in confidence, focus, and execution. Most people underestimate how powerful this process is because the effects are not immediate. You don't feel weaker after one negative conversation or 1 hour of mindless scrolling, but repetition turns small influences into identity-level beliefs. What you repeatedly hear becomes what you eventually believe, and what you believe becomes how you act. This is why guarding your inputs is not extreme, it is intelligent. If you allow chaos, doubt, and negativity to dominate your mental diet, your actions will become reactive and inconsistent. If you allow truth, structure, and purpose to dominate, your actions will become intentional and disciplined. The quality of your thoughts is directly tied to the quality of your exposure. Your environment speaks to your mind constantly, and your mind listens even when you think it isn't. Music, media, conversations, and content are all teaching you something. Either consciously or subconsciously. There is no neutral input. Everything is either building you or breaking you down. High performers understand this, which is why they are selective about what they consume. They don't wait until they feel motivated to protect their mind. They protect their mind so motivation becomes unnecessary. When inputs improve, outputs improve naturally. Focus sharpens, confidence increases, and execution becomes cleaner. This is not willpower, it is cause and effect. If you want different results in 7 days, you don't need a new personality. You need new inputs. Change what you listen to, what you watch, what you read, and who you allow to influence you, and your internal dialogue will shift faster than you expect. When the inner dialogue changes, the outer results follow. Input determines output every time without exception. Daily non-negotiables create rapid transformation because they remove emotion from execution and replace it with standards. Most people live by feelings, not principles, and feelings are inconsistent. One day you feel motivated, the next day you don't. If your progress depends on how you feel, your results will always be unstable. Non-negotiables eliminate that instability by establishing actions that get done regardless of mood, energy, or circumstances. When something is non-negotiable, it is no longer a debate. You don't ask whether you should do it, when you should do it, or if you feel ready to do it. You simply do because that is the standard you have chosen to live by. This is how transformation accelerates. Speed in growth comes from consistency, and consistency comes from removing choice. Every decision you don't have to make saves mental energy and increases follow-through. When your day is built around a small set of enforced actions, progress becomes automatic instead of accidental. Most people overestimate what they can do occasionally and underestimate what they can do daily. A single perfect day means nothing if it cannot be repeated, but an imperfect action done every day compounds faster than bursts of intensity. Non-negotiables work because they are small enough to sustain and strong enough to shape identity. Each time you honor them, you send a signal to yourself that you are reliable, disciplined, and in control. That self-trust builds momentum. Momentum builds confidence. Confidence increases capacity. This is why daily standards outperform long-term goals. Goals are destinations. Non-negotiables are systems. Systems don't wait for motivation. They produce results regardless of emotion. When you decide that certain behaviors happen every day without exception, your nervous system adapts quickly. Resistance fades because repetition creates familiarity, and familiarity reduces effort. What once felt hard begins to feel normal. That is where rapid transformation happens. Not in dramatic breakthroughs, but in quiet, repeated discipline. In 7 days, daily non-negotiables can shift your posture, your energy, and your self-respect because you stop proving to the world that you are capable and start proving it to yourself. The fastest way to change how your life looks is to change what you refuse to negotiate with yourself about. When standards are enforced daily, results have no choice but to follow. Pain or purpose will push you because human beings do not change without pressure. Growth is always preceded by discomfort, and the only difference between people who evolve intentionally and those who wait is the source of that discomfort. When pain is the driver, change comes late and reluctantly. It arrives after consequences, after regret, after damage has already been done. Pain forces action, but it does so by breaking something first: confidence, relationships, health, or time. Purpose, on the other hand, creates pressure without destruction. It pulls you forward instead of backing you into a corner. Most people do not avoid change because they lack ability. They avoid it because comfort has not yet become painful enough. As long as life is tolerable, growth feels optional. Purpose removes that option by giving meaning to discomfort. When you know why you are doing something, you no longer need to be pushed by crisis. You move because staying the same would betray something important. Purpose reframes struggle from punishment into investment. The effort is still hard, but it feels clean instead of chaotic. Pain says, you have no choice. Pose says, you choose this. That difference changes everything. People driven by pain are reactive. People driven by purpose are intentional. Reactive change is inconsistent because it is fueled by fear. Intentional change is sustainable because it is fueled by identity and direction. When purpose is clear, discipline stops feeling like sacrifice and starts feeling like alignment. You are no longer trying to escape a problem, you are building a future. This is why people can endure extreme discomfort when it is tied to meaning, yet quit easily when the same discomfort feels pointless. Purpose gives suffering context. Without context, the mind rebels. With context, the mind cooperates. Choosing purpose means deciding in advance what kind of life you are committed to creating and letting that vision apply pressure daily. It means acting before consequences force your hand. It means allowing the discomfort of growth to save you from the devastation of regret. Everyone will experience pain eventually, but not everyone uses it wisely. Those who wait for pain to change them pay a higher price than those who let purpose lead them early. Transformation accelerates when you stop asking what is easy and start asking what is meaningful. When purpose becomes the driver, effort becomes focused, consistency becomes natural, and resilience becomes inevitable. Choose purpose now, and pain won't have to teach you later. Becoming unrecognizable is not about becoming someone else. It's about finally becoming intentional. 7 days, you don't need perfection, motivation, or permission. You need standards. You need decisions. You need alignment. When you shift your identity, compress time through decisive action, design an environment that works for you, control your inputs, enforce daily non-negotiables, and choose purpose over pain, change stops being a hope and starts being a process. The version of you that doubts, delays, and negotiates has already taken you as far as it can. Now it's time to move forward without it. 7 days from now, the world may not know exactly what changed, but you will. And once you see yourself differently, you will never be able to live the same again.